So my first guest is a young man on the spectrum, and his name is Elias Freeman. And he's an individual with FASD, autism, and he's got a myriad of other diagnoses. But he's in 7th grade, and he's been listening attentively, taking notes, and he has traveled across to another country for the first time with his mama, and I think it's awesome, and we're going to talk to him. So if we can please give me a hand and welcome Elias. What's up, dude? You good?
Yeah.
This is cool of you. Thanks for doing this spur of the moment. So you're an individual. You're in 7th grade.
Yep.
You're on the spectrum. Well, you know what I like to start out? Like, what are you good at, dude? What do you like to do?
Anything not school.
Oh. Yes! Yeah, see, you're amongst friends here. So, but for real, are you a gamer?
Occasionally.
Likes to bully me for no reason.
Yeah, well, he's a brother. That's true, dude. We're a brother. What else? But what do you like to do in general?
I sometimes play sports. I like to build stuff that I know I can't, but I want to find some way to build it.
Yeah. Do you just take household items, Mom, and does he just start building? Okay. I just give him, okay. We got any builders or taker-aparters in the audience, your kiddos? Yeah, and it could translate into the trades after. And so you said school is tough, right? Like you don't like it? Yeah. And what makes school tough?
It's school.
Oh, okay. We talked earlier about, having FASD. And what sort of are some of the challenges that go with that?
It's not as broad as autism or per se Down syndrome, because if you were to think of right now brain injury, I'm sure you would think of like Down syndrome, autism, ADHD, something like that. I don't think, unless you're really smart, one of the first things you would think of more broadly is FASD. So it's kind of like, what's that? And then I have to explain it.
Well, pray tell. What do you say to people when they say, so what's FASD?
To dumb it down a lot, I explain it as like autism, hyperactivity, literally every hyperactivity thing you could possibly have, like every single drug on the planet, times like 10.
So you're trying to sit still and you just can't. Your brain's like, no way, Jose.
Yeah.
So is that why the tablet, the earphone, is that some of the things that help you to keep you settled?
No, I just use it so I can solely listen to what I want to listen to.
Okay. So do you have things that you do when you find you're getting hyper or anxious?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
That's fair. Because it's true, we all get mad, right? And you get frustrated too? Do you do anything to calm down? Do you take a walk? Do you remove yourself or count to 10?
I usually just try and just forget about the situation and go on as if that didn't happen.
That's okay, you'll get your turn. Keep going, you're doing great. Isn't he doing wonderful? Okay, so then I'll let you open mic here. What message would you give other parents and people about FASD?
Be informed, I guess, because you could think that this kid is just like, oh, this is a bad kid. You're always stealing. You're always destroying stuff. Be informed.
Be informed. So you can be compassionate.
Yeah.
Your hair is awesome, by the way. It's just he looks like Canadian because this is a hockey player look right here, dude. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Well, he just did this. I didn't prep. Didn't do anything. Yeah. Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say, Lynn?
I'm tired.
Yeah. All right. Give it up for Elias. Ruby, want to come over here? Yeah, she does. Ladies and gentlemen, Elias' sister, Ruby Freeman. Ruby, come on, everybody. Disclaimer. That's all I'm saying. All right?
I have no filter. That's the disclaimer.
Well, we're cool too, so I'll be neither. Okay? So, Ruby, sort of along the same way, do you want to just tell everybody who you are and how cool you are?
Cheese.
Well, you can talk to me. Okay, let me ask you some questions. What is your favorite activity?
I really love to draw.
Yeah. Okay.
And I actually made a Bluey picture.
Can we see the Bluey picture? Here's Mama Freeman, by the way. Mama Freeman, who took both her kids. Oh, look at that! Woo! All right. This is amazing. Okay, so what is your message to people about FASD?
That they should make sure that they know that it is a real diagnosis and that it is a real thing, because I got kind of like expelled from my old school because they just like assumed that I did something when I didn't do it.
And is that frustrating?
Yeah, because my mom has spent like over 300 hours training this school, and they just don't listen. They didn't listen at all.
And what do you think we need to do? How can we help get them to listen?
We should really have people know that FASD is more than anything a real thing.
It is 2.5 times more prevalent than autism, right? It is the largest cause of developmental disabilities in the world. Like that, right? Okay, but tell us, what do you find fun? What do you find funny? Do you like to make jokes?
Cheese.
Yeah, cheese. You find cheese funny? Okay.
No, I love cheese.
Sorry. Do you have a favorite cheese?
Mozzarella.
Okay. Do you eat it in a brick or do you put it on a pizza?
Yes.
To both? Okay. Now, before you go, is there any other message or anything you would love to say to all these people who are watching you be great?
My hopes are up and my syndrome is down.
Your hopes are up and your syndrome is down. All right, this is Angela Freeman, by the way. Please end up. Bring her round of applause. Angela Freeman. Okay, because we thank you. Thanks, buddy, honestly. We talk about progress. We talk about growth in the Caregiver Club, right? We always are talking about that. And in case you're not aware, Angela, she was last year in the Caregiver Kickstart, and then she joined us in the club. And there's so many milestones. Angela, the first one is how long have you been sober? Take your time. How long?
34 months.
Yeah. And you took your children and flew them to another country.
We drove.
You drove. That's probably safer, right?
Yes.
Nonetheless, you got over. They said yes. They said welcome to Canada. You got here. Okay?
Yeah.
Not only did you do that, but you guys came here, and that she was confident leading up to this, because we were having the children talk, and she goes, no, they want to come, and they can come. Now, were you projecting, or were you that confident?
No, so in September, a few months before September, I was asked to go to Washington, D.C. with University of Rochester to the Annual Society for Developmental Behavioral Pediatricians and speak as a birth mom on the panel with the U of R folks, who are the mecca of FASD in New York, as well as University of Washington, Seattle Children's Hospital care providers. And when I told the kids that I had to go, because it was like my first big thing, they both basically said, well, can we talk on a panel? And I said, I certainly can envision you guys doing something, but not this one. Like, this one needs to be a little serious. I said, but Toronto's coming up, you're more than welcome to come with me on that. So it was just like where we are right now. Somebody mentioned earlier to me, like, there 2 years ago, everything was just on fire.
Yeah. Take your time, guys.
The growth in 2 years has made it so that last December, I talked to them about, their disability and the fact that it was, because I exposed them in utero, and just the conversations that we have in our house around neurodivergence and brain differences and everything, and we've been working really, really hard to just normalize all of these things. I just felt like this would be, I just knew that they were up for it.
Yes! So, being a birth mom, how has everybody made you feel like now again in person?
Oh God, it's just been amazing. I still wish that there were more of us, but I'm doing what I can. I talk to everybody and anyone who will listen to me. Just ask the cashier at the gas station. And I'm always talking to Elias. He's the sage. She's the unicorn. And he's going into school and he's talking about the statistics in 1 in 20, and then he says, "That we know about, Mama." And I'm like, yes, I know. So I'm trying to grow baby advocates, and we're just trying to get the message out there to people, because there should be more birth mothers, because there are so many children that are completely unsupported, and it's just going to make an even bigger mess if we don't get it handled. And there's no productive feeling in guilt and shame by keeping our mouths shut.
Amen, buddy. Awesome. All right, Angela.
Yes.
The last time you shared your journey, when we did it live in Toronto, the community really connected with you and your kids. We love your kids. Since then, what are some of the biggest changes happening at home?
Well, I find myself spending more time just regulating and co-regulating, setting the stage, setting them up for success, as opposed to putting out fires all the time, because that's what I was doing. I was constantly reacting, and now trying to set them up to anticipate triggers, and just knowing like this is what might set them off. So let's try and avoid that. I call it like putting out the train tracks while the train is going, right? I feel like I, wrap them in bubble wrap, and I lay out the red carpet, and so that they're able to walk down safely and smoothly. Like that's what I spend a lot of energy on now. Making sure the TV is on a low volume, making sure that any fights that they might have are kind of mitigated before they have them, just really a lot of regulating and co-regulating, so that we don't reach that dumpster fire kind of levels like we were before, even before Toronto.
I am encouraging folks to go back and check out the episode we had with you previously for your backstory as a birth mom. But it is about going forward too, but still that stuff comes with you. Like, you're an alumnus of our group, dude, the Caregiver Club, the CKS, and you put all the energy in and made all these strides at home and personal. And then the issue, like so many other issues for our parents, was school.
Yeah.
And you took all the advice and are currently, so I don't know if it's a legal stage or thing, but what I would like, so you could say what you could say, but tell us about that, because even with all the advice from us and everyone else, it still didn't pan out how you'd like. So just tell us that story.
Okay, so probably the last time I left off, I was in the process of filing state complaints. Filed a state complaint. There were findings. The state regulations don't really follow up to make sure that things get back in compliance. They just follow up to make sure that the school did something. They don't make sure that whatever that something is completely appropriate and what the student needed. So that was a letdown. I filed a second state complaint. I ultimately filed a due process complaint, and that goes a little different way. And they assigned an independent hearing officer. We went through trial. And I basically represented myself. I did get a non-attorney advocate to help me with that, look at all my documentation, look at the items I was submitting for support. I really felt like I had a strong case, so did they. And everything came back dismissed, denied, basically making it look like the school was doing everything right. I have since appealed that decision. And that was with my daughter's case. And with my son's case, I had also filed a due process complaint. The school said that that was a different kind of complaint. It wasn't an IEP complaint, it was 504 complaint. So they handled things differently. Again, more frustration. Ultimately, I have reached out and I turned because I'm at the point now where they're just so negligent that even though it might not impact my children if I'm successful, there's a systemic issue within the district. So I'm pushing forward on that, knowing that it likely will not impact my children at all, but it will impact others. And I personally just can't let it go. But yeah, in all cases and in all areas, I've feel generally speaking that I've lost. But what I have.
Like how? Sorry to interrupt, but like, how do you keep going when the system said no? And it's okay to recognize a loss. We talk about doing that. Your expression in the group was such, right?
Yeah.
That was a loss.
Yeah, I have had some wins, and so it's just reframing where the bar is, right? When I went into my first IEP hearing, the bar was way up here. And then, I've had to reduce expectations and figure out what was my bare minimum, right? One of the things that I absolutely needed to have happen was that the district, or at least the people handling my students or my children, had to have some sort of training. And that was like a bare minimum. And so eventually I developed a training and went in, and for 2 years in a row, I was able to meet with my daughter's teacher team. I'm on my second year now with my son's teacher team. So it wasn't the pie in the sky, but it was a bare minimum that I was willing to accept. So at least I knew that the folks that were dealing with my children had the information about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and how it manifested itself with my children. Since then, I've gotten a couple speaking opportunities because one person saw the training and was very impressed with the information, talked to her husband, who happens to be the president of a Rotary Club. So that's community members of a local community, and said, you got to have this person come out and speak. So I did that a few weeks ago. So yep.
That's cool. That's cool. You're going fast here. Let me ask you this then, okay? So what you said, reduced expectations to the bare minimum, you are applying that to the actual school board.
Yes.
So right?
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Yeah.
And that's what you mean by that, because going in, you're saying you had pie in the sky, you had taken in our group, surrounded, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to make systemic change.
Yep.
And you've seen what it's really like in the mountain. And for now, you're saying I reframed.
Yeah.
And it's that I know that the people who are directly responsible for my kids have the information, they have the right information.
Yes.
And I can advocate for those folks. But it still bugs me, and I'm still going to pursue this avenue because don't F with me, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Because you're a fighter, dude. That's cool. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm not, no words in mouth. That's correct.
That's
right?
exactly correct. Yes.
Okay. So what lessons did you learn from that the fight with the school or that process that maybe you can pass on to pie in the sky folks yourself, maybe to just wait just a second so they don't set themselves up maybe.
Yeah, I would focus on making sure that my message was a bit clearer. My message should have been, I understand grades, academics, you have your requirements for progression, so on and so forth. But my basic requirement is for my children to feel safe, emotionally have somebody that they can connect to, reduce school refusal. So none of that has anything to do with grades, because I learned that all the grades and stuff would come after. So let's just focus on getting the child there and staying there, right? So let's work together on that. And I focused on, this is what I do at home, and so this is what we need to do at school so that there's a consistent message. And helping the school to understand what my family's definition of success is and how that might differ from the school's definition of success. And just to let them know, listen, I know you have your testing, you're this, you're that, but I want them to feel successful. I want them to feel happy and comfortable and safe.
Yeah, I did, totally. And your kids are worth it, man. People now are loving your kids.
They really do.
I'm playing this after they heard you.
The community has really connected.
I want to get their updates too.
Yes.
I do want to get their updates, but I want to keep going with something that you said, and then we'll segue about the advice.
Mm-hmm.
We have our free group, facebook.com/group/FASD forever. What up? And you are in there, and you wrote about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was asking a question, and you said, well, this is what support looks like for us.
Yeah.
And it got lots of traction.
Yeah.
Right? Like people were all over it. It was a big post. I was like, yeah, that's my girl right there. Bang. Because now your demeanor from the loss to now the repair, and like we could just see, here comes the Freeman train, right? Like you could just see it, right?
Yeah.
So that's good, because I think in the past you would have used other coping mechanisms for a loss, and you didn't do that this time. And which is almost a bigger win in my books than anything else. But we can talk about that in your personal growth. Okay. So in the group you wrote, this is what support looks like. Can you paint that picture for us? What does your daily life look like for your kiddos, as much as you want to share, now compared to then?
Yeah, so in that post, I mentioned we were getting ready to start school. Both children were excited to go to school. Ruby was counting down the days to go to school. She ultimately did get out of district placement. I learned that's what the district does when they don't want to deal with somebody, but it's fine because she's thriving. She counts down the days to go to school instead of almost 100% school refusal 2 years ago. When I was preparing for my lawsuit, I realized that I had received 270 phone calls from the school.
That's what you said. I thought maybe you were just saying that, or that's legit.
270 phone calls in a year and a half, which is the period that was covered under the due process. And I don't get phone calls from school anymore because she's thriving. Her attendance last year in the out of district placement was 97% attendance. And the only time that she missed school was when we were in Toronto. And there were 2 times that we traveled to Albany for family empowerment events for advocacy. That was the only time that she was out of school. So that's huge. She has friends. She talks on the phone with her friends from that school almost every night. She's been invited to birthday parties.
Because she's the bomb.com. That's why.
We've had her friends over. One of the parents who brought his son over said, "Thank you so much for inviting my son. This is the only birthday party he's ever been invited to." And these are 11 and kids.
Dude, it's, you know what I would want to see is the look of relief on the parents' faces when they know that you get it.
Yeah,
So they must be apprehensive, and then you're like, buddy, because you have that demeanor
yeah,
anyways. I'll relax around you. But like for a parent that doesn't have that
yeah,
opportunity and is so nervous, right? Like,
yeah. It was just the classroom is smaller, but at one point, one of the boys was like standing in one of her gift bags with a gift bag on his head, spinning in circles, and not a person was batting an eye. It was just like he's living his best life. So it's just a very inclusive group. And so we've had to find our people, right?
so what are some specific wins from Ruby and Elias that make you say this has all been worth it?
Okay, when Ruby left her in district placement in fourth grade, at the end of fourth grade, she was testing out at a second grade math, which we know math is supposed to be one of their more challenging subjects. I know that math led to a lot of school refusal. And when she left fifth grade, she tested out at a seventh grade math level, which is completely phenomenal. It's supposed to be one of her worst subjects. She got a scientist award at the end of fifth grade, and that was just after 1 year of being supported in school. Meanwhile, I'm still fighting the district, but she did.
How do you like not snarl and sorry, that's me being catty like because you still have to be a mom and be a role model and all, and they're looking at you and I'm sure and then you have to just or did you just have a shit-eating grin every day like on school drop off?
It helps to know that I'm the expert when it comes to my kid, and there's really nothing that anybody can say that would prove me wrong. So that's an attitude that I have.
Good answer. Good answers. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead with the wins from your kiddo.
I've worked with my son's school to also get them the training. He's, he has FASD, and so he presents completely differently. He has the ability to mask, but his sixth grade was really, really rough for him. We had a hospitalization, but he's really bounced back from that and just found connections with a teacher here or there that has made all the difference in the world. And so I say he doesn't need to connect with a ton of people. He just needs to connect with one really well. And we've managed to find those people, and I help him foster those relationships. And in eighth grade, I mean, he's running for eighth grade delegate, which is really extrovert for him. But he's found his people, and it helps that he doesn't care what people think of him because he's his own
She's. I
person.
wonder where he gets that from.
Yeah. But it's good that he doesn't know enough that he should be maybe a little bit more. He just doesn't. He's just unequivocally himself, and take it or leave it. And we found certain sports are a little bit more inclusive than others. So he tried out for baseball and did really, really well. He does soccer, and that group of guys is a little bit better as opposed to some of the other sports. And then the other thing I found for both of them is we have in our area, it's like a challenger sports, and it's only for kids with special needs. So we've gotten them involved in that so that it's not as much as Special Olympics, but it's along the same lines, but it's more local. And so it helps them be connected with folks that are at their.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just sometimes I hear folks about their kids saying they don't want to like look different or be associated with different, because our guys present so well,
Yes.
and you could go to someone other intellectual disability places and you could tell like there's other ends of the spectrum, right?
Yes.
So how do they feel about that?
My son was a little, I've tried presenting him with the idea last year and he wasn't all about that, but this year he's really grown. I think because we've normalized differences so much in our house that he's able to see it no matter where he goes. Right? So I think yeah, he's just gotten more comfortable in his own skin, I think. He just told me last night, he's like, "Oh, I think this teacher so and so has a touch of this, has a touch of that." And I was like,
Yeah, he's got a touch of the tism.
"Yes, yes." He says, "I think yeah."
Yeah, that's how you just you're on
I'm
the
like,
he's flying on the spectrum somewhere.
"Yeah." And I said, "Does he seem?" He says, "He's exactly like me." I'm like, "Okay, well then, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever you."
Oh, that's so nice. You have great kids. You do have great kids, right? And not to take it off the happy stuff, but you've talked about guilt before. You talked about it in our last podcast we done. You talked about it in our group sessions as a birth mom and as a caregiver. You're a mom first, right?
Yeah.
How has your perspective on that area has that shifted this past year? With you knowing more of the disability and seeing more and putting yourself out there more. How has that shifted for you?
It actually has not shifted at all. I still firmly believe that for me personally, and I would argue for most, it's not a productive emotion to stay in. It's not helpful. It takes a lot of energy to sit in guilt and shame, and it doesn't change anything in my program for living and for sobriety. There's nothing I can do to change it. So,
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Okay, because then that goes this way then.
yeah.
So what's the date? I know you shared the date in the interview. That was a year ago.
Yes. So it'll be 4 years of sobriety December 17th. So here we are sitting October 1st. It's coming up pretty quickly. So it's
Cool. That is awesome.
yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
Okay, but with all the shit you've been through, dude, here's my question. What's helped you? Because there's a big loss, right? What has helped you personally stay sober, stay regulated, and keep showing up for your kids through all of that?
Well, I mentioned I do work a program and I still do, meetings, I would say 5 out of 7 days a week. They know that that's a priority for me, and so they allow me to take the time I need for those. Hearing my son, so my son's only 13. He remembers a lot more than I would have liked. And I would say in the last 3 months or so, he was just so angry. But because I've kept showing up and because he has seen that I'm maintaining sobriety and because he sees how hard I'm working, he has now shifted. He's not angry anymore. I've never seen him happier. And now he'll tell me, "I love you so much, mommy. I don't know what I would do without you." And he was my close guy, but I knew that he was so angry with me. And then, the relationship with my daughter, I've told you before, she hated me until she was like 8 years old. And, sometimes she'll just come and sit on my lap and hug me, and she lets me hug her and she lets me tuck her in. And like, it's just, I tell her I love her and she'll actually say it back. Or, sometimes if I know that she's had a particularly rough day on the bus ride home, I'll just take my phone in to her room because she'll go in to kind of settle herself. And I just lay on the bed right next to her. I'll put my feet on the wall and I'll just be on my own phone. So I'm not talking to her, I'm not engaging her, but I'm with her. And that usually softens her up so that she'll tell me, Mommy, this happened or that happened, or, this made me really sad, or this dysregulated me, whatever. And that just keeps that relationship going. And I never had that before. So I would be really dumb to throw that away by drinking again.
Dude, you're awesome. You're the best. Hey, what do you want to say to the caregiver who's listening right now and feels like they're drowning, right? Maybe losing hope with school, their own sobriety, meltdowns. If you could hand them a few sentences to carry into tomorrow, what would it be?
I really focus on the basics. And many of us have heard, find the hill to die on. Food, water, sleep, medication, emotional and physical safety. Very heavy on emotional safety. My kids needed to know that if they shared something with me to advocate for themselves, that I was going to do something about it. The things my daughter has told me would make other people shudder. But the bottom line is, I'd rather her tell me those things than to do things behind my back. She's not one to confabulate. She's not one to sneak around or try to do things behind my back. She'll do it right in front of my face or say, Hey, Mommy, I'm having this intrusive thought. I wonder what this bar of soap tastes like. And I'm like, okay, let's talk through that. I don't care what they eat as long as they're getting food and calories and nutrients. I've taken them both to nutritionists. They're both good. I make sure they're hydrated. I know that they're on the right medication. I talk to them about how their medication makes them feel. They're only able to do that because they're regulated. I make sure that they get enough sleep. My daughter always wants to push it, but I say, Sissy, I know that you don't make the best choices when you're tired over and over and over again, but that emotional and physical safety is really huge. And everything else, unless it's a matter of personal safety, I don't say no. My daughter will say, Mommy, can I use this saw to cut things? Sure, let me show you how to do it safely. Property damage. She likes to cut things. And so I started getting creative and finding things that were okay for her to cut, because it was really, really satisfying for her to cut candles or soap or tree branches, whatever it was, whatever that need was that she was seeking. I'd rather have it be a bar of soap or candle wax as opposed to my leather couch, because that happened, right? So it's just really getting curious and meeting what that they're at, but not dying on.
Yeah, it's like cut this, not that.
Yes.
Yeah. Chew this, not
Exactly.
that. Smash this, not that.
Exactly.
Tear this up, not that.
Yes.
Yeah, we do that often too.
Yep.
And we even keep a cardboard box sometimes if
Yep.
there's some dysregulation,
Yep.
and that she can get after it anytime she's frustrated.
Yep.
Yeah.
She has said to me, Hey, Mommy, do you
Okay,
mind if
I'm just listening to you too, so I'm just like,
yeah, she'll say, Mommy, do you mind
no,
if
I don't mind. My next thing, Angela, was gonna be what's next for you and your kiddos.
Okay.
And then I just want you to say everything you want to say.
Okay. So what's next for us is I'm working on a couple of small advocacy projects. They know that I have an upcoming, family empowerment advocacy trip in Albany. They're going to go with me. Last year was the first time that they spoke on a youth panel for that, and I didn't know what was going to come out of their mouths, and they crushed it. 10 minutes later, they were, the Freemans had given their piece. But it's just more of the same, just trying to maintain. And I'm trying to focus on, now that they're getting older, what are the things that they need to be successful as they get older? So helping them more manage relationships and self-advocacy, and just, but it's really a lot more of the same, is keep them regulated so that they're able to learn and practice. And for me, stay sober and look for any and all opportunities to share my story.
Stay silly. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, you're doing that. Stay sober, stay silly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you've done great. You've done great. And your family's doing great, even through the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you said you wanted to mention, buddy?
One thing I've done in when I'm asked to speak, depending on the audience, is I'm really trying to appeal to the community's cost of this disability and what it looks like to be unsupported, because I think unfortunately we're still in the convincing stage that FASD is as prevalent as it is. And being an accountant, I'm a numbers person, so I'm trying to appeal to people's sense of the data. And when I give numbers like $420 billion a year that's unfunded or unnoticed or whatever, is somebody's bearing that cost. And so I think that's been helpful for me to just understand who my audience is and be able to kind of be nimble with that message while still staying true to, my story and being an open book. Nothing phases me, nothing will embarrass me. There's nobody that can make me feel worse about what has happened than myself. And if I choose to move past that, then someone else can choose to move past it or not. I also have the choice to have them in my space or not. But at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my children and I'm going to protect my peace while still going out there and trying to share the message and the information and educate and advocate.
Oh, well done. Well, you know what? I'm glad I'm along for the ride. I'm glad we're a part of the journey. This
Yeah.
has been awesome. Your kids are awesome.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.